Hey, what's up? Hello and welcome. My name is Maya and I'm Maya the Simmer. And today we have I don't know what to call this. I guess a challenge video. If you're new here, my name is Maya. I make Sims 4 videos, mostly challenges and let's plays. In this video, I am going over my own challenge. I want to start by saying that I got this idea from Lucid Simmer. Lucid Simmer has their own challenge. I'll link it down below if you want to check it out. But I did create this challenge all the way in 2020, so it's not necessarily a new challenge, and I did attempt to play this challenge before on my channel, but I ended up privating that series because I want to have a fresh start. And I will be playing this challenge on my channel, so if you want to check it out, don't forget to subscribe. But basically, this video, I will be going over the challenge and my idea of each generation. If you are a simmer that likes gameplay and stories and things of that nature, then this challenge will definitely be for you. If you're someone that struggles coming up with storylines, this is also a really good challenge. And I don't know, I'm really excited to play it. I'm proud of this challenge. And yeah, also there are some things that aren't completed. Like I have some things that I want input from all of you. If you can give me some ideas for some generations, but we'll get more into that. I also have a link in the description where it has the Tumblr post that goes over the challenge, and I also have a Google Docs of the challenge that I'll link below. So if you want to play along, you can use the hashtag Mystical Legacy Challenge on any social media so I can check it out. But yeah, without any further ado, we're gonna get started with the Mystical Legacy Challenge and what it's all about. Alright, first we're going to go over the backstory. It says, this is a 10 generation legacy challenge inspired by SimSav's Mystical Motherhood series. That series is now called, I believe, the Occult Challenge. I'll link it down below. But this challenge will follow 10 generation of Sims, 2 will be human, and 8 will be considered mystical Sim. A mystical Sim involves all occult Sims and Sims that add gameplay to the Sims 4. So Sims like Father Winter, Sims like the Flower Bunny, those type of Sims. Each generation will have a mystical heir that has goals that need to be completed in order for the generation to be considered completed. Like I said, I was inspired by SimSav's Mystical Motherhood series when I made this challenge all the way in 2020. And basically, when I was watching that challenge, first of all, I love SimSav's videos. If you don't know who SimSav is, I'll link her challenge down below as well. But when I was watching her challenge, I loved that each generation she would like dress the Sims like their parents, and I just fell in love with the kids in that series. And I was thinking like it would be so cool to have a whole generation dedicated to those like Sims. And I then came up with different rules for each generation, and that's basically the challenge. But we're gonna go more into the general rules now and like what you need to start off. So to start off, you must start with a young adult Sim. You can only start with starting funds of 20,000 simoleons. The money generated can be kept over generations, so you do not have to reset each generation to 20,000 simoleons. And honestly, you can start off with however much you want to start off with. I am not gatekeeping anyone's game with this challenge, but yeah. Aging can be set however you prefer. I'm going to be playing the challenge on normal. Your heir succession laws can follow any system you prefer. So there's like, for example, any gender can be heir, eldest born will be heir, alternating genders, and etc. I'm honestly playing whoever I think fits heir best. Some generations you have to choose a specific heir, so more to come. But you can use any mods you wish, because I play with mods, as long as they don't provide you an advantage. Most mods add more challenge than advantage anyway. You can also change the rules based on the packs you have, because a lot of these generations follow packs and occults, but I'll get more into it when we get there. You have to pass on a mystical collectible to the next mystical heir. more information is going to come. And then optional, and I'm definitely going to be doing this, you can dress and name your Sims reflecting the generation. I'm going to explain that more once we get into the generations. But now we're going to go into each generation and what they're about. I'm going to start by giving you their little backstory, and then we'll go over the goals for the generation. All right, so generation 1 is obviously human, and when I was creating this generation, I had a really specific idea of what the sim would be like, but of course, if you have another idea, go for it. But I'm gonna read the backstory now. It says, you are the first generation, and you are completely responsible for the curse placed on future generation. You visited the jungles of Selva Dorada when you took a sacred relic that will curse you and your family for generations to come. The curse makes it so every generation must produce a mystical heir. The final generation will have to have all 10 mystical collectibles to break the curse. You marry a human and have at least one human baby to conceal the curse. You would then have an affair and conceive the mystical heir, which will be with a mermaid. No one will know about the affair except for the next mystical heir when they become a teen. You want to make up for your wrongdoing by becoming the best parent and volunteering with your family. All right, so when I created this generation, obviously this generation starts off the whole idea that your family's cursed for 10 generations kind of idea that I wanted to go with. And this generation is kind of a perfectionist that has their life in order. And then they make this one mistake of messing with a jungle relic and cursing their family. Now, this does obviously involve jungle adventure, and if you don't have that pack, you can come up with any idea of how you get cursed. For example, maybe you can have your sim have to get struck by lightning to get cursed. Maybe you have to find a specific crystal to get cursed. Get creative if you don't have jungle adventure. I know it's a pack that not many people have or get, but yeah, I'm gonna go over to the rules of the generation. So for this generation, your mystical collectible is one jungle relic collected from Selva Dorada. Now, like I said, if you want to change up the generation because you don't have the pack, you can change the collectible to anything you want. For example, if you did the crystal, it would be you have to find a specific crystal or element or something of the nature. All mystical collectibles need to be passed on to the next heir, and by the end of this challenge you'll have a total of 10, and I'll get to what happens on the 10th generation. But you want to make sure that you're keeping the mystical collectibles safe and making sure they pass from household to household. Now, obviously, if you collected something and then you misplace it, you lose it, something happens to your game, you can use debug or cheats to get the item back if you collected it without using cheats in the first place. But the goals are you need to have the paranoid and perfectionist trait. Like I said, I wanted this generation to be a perfectionist that made a huge mistake that they have to be stressed out to concealed. That's why they're paranoid as well. They're paranoid someone's going to find out. And then the job is any freelancer career. I chose this career because I wanted you to be able to stay home with your children because you're supposed to be the super parent. You also need to travel to Selva Dorada and retrieve one jungle relic and activate the relic. Like I said though, if you don't have the pack, choose something else for this goal. You need to complete the super parent aspiration, master the parenting skill, marry a human, and have at least one child with them. You can have more than one child with your human spouse, but I would just warn you that all of your children that you do have with your human spouse need to end up with 3 positive character values. So if you want to add more challenge, have more kids. You also need to have one mermaid child through an affair. Now, this is the only occult baby that it doesn't matter if your kid is born human or mermaid, considering it's an affair that happens one time. And in my rules, I do include a disclaimer for the generation on what you should do if your mermaid sim or your mermaid heir is not a mermaid. You can choose to change them into a mermaid because it's not a part of next generation. Mermaids are honestly an occult that gets no love, and because of it, I did put it as the first occult, kind of not to get it over with, but it doesn't really have there's no skill tree for a mermaid. So that generation, if you're not a mermaid, it's fine, but you just have to have a child with a mermaid. Anyway, Like I said, though, your human children need to age up with 3 positive character values. Mermaid child has to have at least 1 negative character. I would stress that you really research negative character values because they do impact you as an adult. So you want to choose carefully with that one. I found that out when I first played this challenge. And then you also need to volunteer as a family 3 times and have a pristine reputation by the time you become an elder. Like I said, feel free to change any of these goals based on the pack you have. We're gonna move on to Generation 2. All right, Generation 2 is the Mermaid generation, and the Mermaid generation's backstory is: you always had a love for water, but never knew why. You thought you had a perfect life until you found out you're a mermaid's kid. You end up resenting Generation 1 air and move to Sulani as a teenager. There you fall in love with the island and appreciate all things surrounding being a mermaid. You take on the role of cleaning up the island and join the conservationist career. Though you are not perfect, you want to give your mystical heir a wonderful childhood. Your love for nature leads you to meeting Patchy. You never marry, but you have 3 kids with them. So this generation is, I'm imagining kind of like H2O, and what's that movie when the boy turns 13 and then he realizes he's a mermaid? I can't remember the movie, but if I remember it while I'm editing, I'll put the picture on the screen. But that's what I was thinking of when I made this generation. Kind of like, you don't know you're a mermaid, and then you know how in The Sims 4 when mermaids turn into teenagers and they get wet, they produce a fin. And I would love to see that play out in The Sims, that kind of storyline. And then the argument with Generation 1 heir or generation your legacy founder. Based on that, I think that would be amazing storyline. And then running away to Sulani, so we have a runaway teen story. It's going to be a lot of fun this generation. And because mermaids don't have skill trees like the other occults, I wanted to make sure there was something fun with the story to keep us interested this generation. But that being said, let me go to the goals so we can see what we have to do for Generation 2. All right, so Generation 2, our mystical collectible would be 1 ordinary conch shell. When I played this previously, this generation, I did get to this gen and I did get all of this done. And I even had the last video for that generation, and I just didn't like how the series was turning out, so I ended up not uploading it. So I did play through Generation 1 before and Generation 2, but I plan on doing it completely different this time. Anyway, our goals are to have the traits of Child of the Ocean and Green Fiend. You may notice that most generations, well, not most, but these first 2 generations have 2 traits. Some generations have all 3 chosen for you, so it just depends on the generation. But for this generation, you only have 2. All right, you have to age up to a young adult with 1 negative character value. That was kind of touched on Generation 1. You need to have at least 3 kids with Patchy, but never marry Patchy. The first time I did it, I think I ended up having triplets. This time, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but you need to move to Sulani as a teenager and live there for the rest of your life. Despise Generation 1 mystical heir at least until young adulthood. So when you run away as a teen, for that whole period, you have to despise Generation 1 heir. Become best friends with a mermaid. Master the fitness and logic skill. I chose these skills because they're a part of the career, which is you have to reach a level 10 of the conservationist career and complete the beach life aspiration and complete the seashell collection. So I added a lot of gameplay things that you had to do because, like I said, no skill tree for mermaids. So we had to beef up the goals for this generation to make it more fun and challenging. But we're gonna move on to Patchy now, which I didn't get a chance to play, so I'm so excited to get to Gen 3 when we do start this challenge. All right, but Patchy's Gen 3, and I just want to start off by saying I love the vibe of Patchy's Gen, just because orange is my personal favorite color, and I'm just gonna get into the backstory because I think the backstory is gonna make it a really, really fun generation to play. But it says, you grew up spending most of your time outside. You always loved collecting things you found on the beaches of Sulani growing up. Your parents were never official and has caused you to be non-committal. You also picked up a love for the outdoors that your parents shared. You are never satisfied with love except for your love for flowers and gardening. Your love for flowers leads you to having a single baby with a flower bunny. Though you do not commit to the flower bunny or a job, you still love your child and want to teach them about the great outdoors and all you learned in your time as a scout. Your lack of commitment makes you avoid getting connected to material items and prefer to find things in a dumpster. So, this generation, I just imagine like the background picture, a tiny house in the middle of the woods or in like an outdoorsy area, you and your one kid just, traveling a little bit, moving around a little bit, enjoying the great outdoors, things of that nature. I think it's going to be a really like single parent kid generation that is going to be so much fun, and I can't wait to play it. But let's go over the rules. All right, so our mystical collectible is the Elixir of Fertility, which I believe you can do with the Herbalism skill. I've never maxed that skill, but that is the skill of this generation. The traits are Loves the Outdoors, Non-Committal, and Freegan. So this generation, you have all three traits, but if you have the More Traits mod like I do, you obviously can fill in more traits to give your sim more character and more depth to them, I guess. You also need to earn at least 5 scout badges as a child and teen. That was so hard to do. I'm going to try to do it again. I did it the first time I played through, but it is really difficult to do and you kind of have to be on it from the beginning. Now, this next goal, have 1 child with a flower bunny or 1 werewolf. So, in the background, it says that you have a child with the flower bunny, but werewolves came out after I created this challenge, and werewolves are in a cult. They should be a part of this challenge. So I gave you the option of choosing to do Gen 4 as a werewolf or the flower bunny, or maybe you can try to do both if you want, but I know I'm going to choose werewolf. I don't even have the pack yet, but because I don't have the pack, I want to do a playthrough of it. But the flower bunny generation does seem fun as well, so I might have to go back and do it as well. But when we get to Gen 4, we'll see both sets of rules and you can decide which one you want to do. But for Patchy's generation, you just choose 1 to have a child. You need to also max the gardening and the herbalism skill, complete the outdoor enthusiast aspiration. That aspiration is really difficult to do. Live in a tiny home with simple living your entire young adult life. I might add the challenge of doing it for my Sims' whole life once they move out, but I'm not sure yet, just because I imagine this generation is a little tight on money. As an elder though, you marry the hermit in Granite Falls, which I'm excited to do. And then you can only make money through gardening, or you can do a part-time job, odd jobs. You can find things and sell them on the yard table as well. I also put in the option that you can give yourself the challenge of having only 10 plants at a time on your lot, because gardening is so overpowered in The Sims and it makes you so much money. And I do imagine this generation, like I said, is a little tight on money. I don't know. I just see it for this generation. But like I said, play the challenge how you want to play the challenge. It's meant to have fun, and it's meant for you to tell stories with your Sims. So play it how you want to play it. If you want your Patchy Sim to be rich, make them rich. But that's the goals I have for Gen 3. Now we're going to move on to Gen 4. All right, like I said, Gen 4 is split into 2 different generations. And I know that I have Werewolf on top and it says Generation 4B, and Flower Bunny says Generation 4A, and it is because Flower Bunny is technically Generation 4A. So I am going to start off with the Flower Bunny's backstory, and then I'll do the Werewolf, and like I said, you can just choose 1. All right, Flower Bunny, it says, your childhood was very lonely, but you loved spending time outdoors. You fall in love with flower arrangements. You love celebrating Flower Day, and your lack of siblings made you appreciate animals more, as they were your only companions growing up. It leads you to opening up your own veterinary practice. You seem to have your life all together, but you have a dark side. You are intrigued by vampires. You try hard to live a normal life and even become engaged to a human. You end up meeting a vampire and fall in love. You and your vampire spouse have a big family. That's the background of Flower Bunny. I imagine this one as kind of like a Dr. Dolittle generation, someone that owns a veterinary practice and they're always surrounded by animals, and their lot has like chickens, cows, llamas, bunnies on it, foxes on it, and it's definitely just giving, you know, veterinary vibes, like animal lover vibes. And I definitely imagine this generation living in Henford on Bagley. For me personally, like I said, you do whatever you want with this challenge, but I'm gonna read over Werewolf because I'm not even gonna play over Flower Bunny for my like playthrough of the challenge. Well, at least I don't think. Watch when I get there. Maybe I won't be able to decide, or I'll let my subscribers decide. Anyway, we're gonna read over Werewolf, and it's pretty similar to Flower Bunny as well. It says, your childhood was very lonely, but you loved spending time outdoors. Your lack of siblings made you appreciate animals more, as they were your only companions growing up. I mean, you really appreciate them, and it seems like you can connect with them. It leads you to opening your own veterinary practice. You want to have a sense of family, so you join a pack. Finally, a family. You seem to have your life all together, but you have a dark side. You are intrigued by vampires. You try hard to live a normal life, and even become engaged to a werewolf from your pack. You end up meeting a vampire and fall in love. You leave your pack and decide to start one with your one true love. You and your vampire spouse have a big family. So like I said, Flower Bunny and Werewolf are really similar because Generation 3 is a set generation, and both, no matter if you choose a werewolf or the Flower Bunny, both of those avenues, you only have one kid. For the werewolf generation, you do need to be a werewolf, so you may have to have your sim turned into a werewolf if they are not naturally one, but you can play around with the story like you like, because you end up only having one kid as Patchy. So it's, if your sim is not born a werewolf, you kind of have to change them into one. But I'm going to go over the rules for both generations now. All right, starting off with Flower Bunny, you need a mystical collectible of a rare decorative egg. So during the Flower Bunny holiday, so to even summon the Flower Bunny, you need to add that as a holiday on the calendar. This generation does require seasons, and the werewolf generation does require the werewolf pack, and both generations require cats and dogs. So yeah, but like I said, if you don't have the packs, switch it around. But if you don't know how to summon the Flower Bunny, you need to add it as a holiday onto your calendar, and then add the holiday tradition of the Flower Bunny, and then the Flower Bunny will show up, and then you have to add the tradition of collecting eggs to get like the rare decorative egg. But that's how you get that collectible. The goals for this generation are to have the traits animal enthusiast, cheerful, cat or dog lover, and you get to choose one. You need to achieve the country caretaker aspiration, or you can choose the friends of animals, depending on which one you want to do. Receive Bunny of Excellence award as a kid. So to get that award, you have to do really well in school. Befriend a bunny. Master the veterinary skill and flower arranging skill. Break off an engagement with a human. Marry a vampire and have children with them. Also note, the heir for next generation must be a vampire, which is why you have a big family. Keep on trying until you get that vampire baby. Also, you need to have a 5-star veterinary practice and complete the decorative egg collection. That's the Flower Bunny generation. On to Werewolf. Like I said, I don't have this pack, so I'm not sure what I'm gonna have for the mystical collectible. So for this generation, we'll see as we play what we make the mystical collectible, but it has to be something we can click and drag into our inventory and gift someone else, or like put it into someone else's inventory to pass it on to the next heir. But the traits are animal enthusiast, cheerful, cat or dog lover. It's the same as Flower Bunny. Achieve 1 werewolf aspiration. I know nothing of the aspirations, so I just put that as a blanket one until we play around with this generation. Reach level 5 apex on the werewolf skill tree. Become leader of a pack and then leave that pack. Master veterinary skill. Break off an engagement with a werewolf from your pack. It says always have a vet in your house. It should say always have a pet in your house. I'll fix it. Marry a vampire and have children with them. And then have and open a veterinary practice in adulthood. And it's the same as the Flower Bunny generation. You must have a vampire for Gen 5. but that is the werewolf and the flower bunny generation. I like the idea of having kind of like a choose your own destiny. For Gen 4, it kind of switches it up and it makes it so that other people's playthroughs are different and you don't know which generation people are going to choose. It makes it a little interesting and I like it. But I'm going to move on to Gen 5. All right, Gen 5 is vampire generation and it says, you always hated that everyone around you was so happy. When you enter the room, people are terrified. You always perform mischievous interactions on your family. Your troubled childhood led you to a life of crime. You always wanted to be proud of your vampire heritage, and you wanted to turn as many Sims as possible. When you realize you have to fulfill the curse, you find a Sim that hates chair almost as much as you. You produce your heir with a tragic clown. So, for this generation, I wanted it to be kind of like the black sheep of the family, but quite literally the evil sheep of the family. And I never play around with like evil Sims, and usually I could have went with the good vampire, but the generation before was good. So I wanted Gen 5 to be evil, and I think they're not going to get along at all. And I love that idea. And I don't know, I just want a vampire that goes around sucking everyone's blood, turning everyone into a vampire, and a lot of chaos. We're right in the middle of the challenge by now, and I play challenges a lot on my channel. And I know that once you get to Gen 4, Gen 5, that's when the I wouldn't say boredom, but that's when you're kind of craving something new. And with the vampire generation, you kind of get that because it's kind of really dark. But without any more holding up, we're going to go over the generation rules. All right, these rules seem much shorter than previous generations. And the reason for that is because the generations kind of pack a lot because you have to do 2 separate aspirations. But it says, your mystical collectible is the ultimate vampire tome. Your traits are evil, art lover, and ambitious. I chose art lover because since you have to have a baby with the tragic clown, and to get the tragic clown that is a painting, that I felt this sim was someone that's really into art. You have to complete the master vampire and the vampire family aspiration. Like I said, 2 aspirations in 1 gen is going to be a little difficult. Max the mischief and painting skill. Become a master vampire. Have children with the tragic clown. It says children, but if you decide to have 1 child, that is fine. Join the criminal career for all of your young adulthood. And then you can change the career as an adult if you choose so. But if you want to keep it up in the crime life, keep it up with the crime life. But I'm definitely imagining like mob boss, vampire. I don't know. I'm going to have so much fun with Gen 5. Honestly, I'm really looking forward to Gen 5. But we're going to move on to Gen 6, which is Tragic Clown. All right, Tragic Clown. It says, your life was full of sadness and chaos. You always wanted to make people laugh growing up, but all you want now is stability. Or that's what you think. You move far away from home to pursue a life of law and try to get rid of your childish ways. One day you look up to the stars and realize that's what you want to be. You join the entertainment world and become a celebrity. You end up with an alien and enjoy your life in Del Sol Valley. You love going bowling with your friends and family. So, for this generation, I don't know, Tragic Clown in the original Mystical Motherhood series or the Occult Challenge or Occult Baby Challenge, you have to have a baby with the tragic clown, and I thought that was so cool. Can you imagine a whole generation and you get to dress your sim up, and I'm imagining like business suits first because you're a lawyer, and then as you become a celebrity and a comedian, you start to wear like more fun things. Like, can you imagine that? Like, this is what I mean by I wanted whole generations to play around with these characters, and I feel like this generation is going to be really, really fun because you're going to have this fun-loving person who's trying to tamper it down by becoming a lawyer, especially because their parent was a criminal, so that's probably what's going to push them into law. But without any further ado, let me go over the goals before I get too much into the story. As you can see, I'm really into this generation as well. The mystical collectible is a Starlight Accolade. I don't know about you, Starlight Accolades are really hard to get for me in my game, so I feel like that's going to be something that may take us a while this generation. The traits are goofball, childish, and self-absorbed. And then you need to complete the Jokestar aspiration, reach level 3 of the law career, quit, and then reach level 10 of the entertainment career under the comedian branch. That's going to be hard because you have to do 2 careers, but I only put it up to level 3 because if you graduate school with an A in The Sims, you can get to level 3 really quickly. Or if you don't, level 3 I thought was a safe bet. Become at least a 3-star celebrity. Live in 3 different worlds, so the one that you're born into, and then with your vampire parent, and then you have to move away from that town because you want to get away from that parent. That's your second world. And then your last will be Doso Valley. You need to max the comedy skill and the bowling skill. I never play around with the skill, how to throw it in somewhere, and I don't know about you. Bowling shoes look like clown shoes to me, so that's why I chose that. And then you have to win a Starlight accolade. I forgot to add on there that you have to have a baby with an alien, at least 1 baby. You can have more, but you have to have a baby with an alien. And I thought that since the background said you looked up to the stars and you wanted to become one, that maybe you have a telescope and that is how you get abducted and have a baby with an alien. Or you can add an alien to the world and they meet it that way. Or you can go to a bar night and meet an alien. I don't know. You just have to have babies with aliens for this generation and become a celebrity, which I think is going to be really cool. That being said, let's move on to the alien generation. This is also another generation I'm really looking forward to. Just because it's a generation with a sim style that I don't really play around with much, but I'm gonna read over the backstory. You have a hard time connecting with humans. You don't make many friends and instead always have your head in the books. You may be a genius, but you can't excel in human school. You instead rather focus on tinkering in the garage. You have a hard time staying at a job and keeping friends. You decide to build a robot and they become your closest friend. Though you have trouble saying how you feel, you always seem to touch people with your singing. You love singing songs on human holidays. You may seem out of touch with the world, but you still love your children. You just don't know how to show it. And for the background picture, I chose a heart and a brain and there's star constellations. I don't know if you really can see that. It looks a little blurry. But anyway, there's star constellations because obviously space. But this sim has a hard time connecting their brain to their heart because they are alien and they have a hard time connecting with humans. And I thought that would be like a cool element to add to this generation. And it's going to be fun playing around with the alien. I'm hoping to get abducted, so the baby turns out like alien colored skin and has a disguise, and it's going to be really, really fun to play with this generation. Yeah, but let me go over the generation rules. So you have to collect the ulti bot. That bot is it's made through the robotic skill. I'm hoping it's draggable. I don't know yet, so we're going to play around with that generation and see, but all of these generations are subject to change if I get to the generation and realize that something isn't playable. The traits are genius, hates children, and proper. Now, I did hate children, and I know this trait is controversial, so if you have a different trait you want to select for this one, I understand. And honestly, it's your choice completely. But I put it because I feel like the alien has a hard time connecting with all types of humans. I also thought about putting unflirty instead of proper, but I added proper on there. Just because, you know, I can see the alien bowing when they greet everyone because they don't know what to do, and maybe they picked that up over the years and things like that. Anyway, you need to complete the Renaissance aspiration, fail out of university. I'm so excited to do that. I've never failed out of university because I don't know, I'm always scared to fail out of university, but it's a generation rule, so I have to do it this generation. Master the robotics and the singing skill. Make and befriend a servo. I've never made a servo, so excited for that. Also, you need to have twins with Father Winter. You can use cheats for this, or you can use like in-game things to get twins. Add 3 made-up holidays to the calendar. Also excited for this because I can see the aliens saying like, yes, humans have Paper Day, and then just like make up a holiday around that. Like, that's gonna be really fun. And because they have a hard time connecting with their children, they're gonna make up holidays as a way to bond with them. Also, they go all out for every holiday because that's the thing they think, or they have the most connection with humans with, is the holidays. So that's going to be really fun to play around with this generation. But yeah, we're going to move on to Father Winter because this is a generation I'm honestly so excited for. All right, Gen 8 says Father Winter. You had a loveless childhood. but you still want to be a good friend of the world. You look up to your father so much and love to make things for others. If it involves using your hands, you love to do it. You end up opening a business selling your goods. Just like your father, you love traveling the world and anything with cold weather. People say it's magical how your father manages to give a gift to every sim in the world. No wonder you fall in love with the Spellcaster. So this generation, I'm definitely seeing like mountain vibes, in the wood vibes. I was going to add on to the generation rules that you have to climb Mount Komorebi. I think I'm still going to do that for my personal gameplay, and if it's easy to do, I'll add it onto the generation goals. But this sim is definitely like an adventurous sim, but they have like the homey vibes, and I'll explain more when we go over their generation rules. All right, this generation, you need to collect a rare snow globe. Your traits are foodie, family oriented, and adventurous. You need to complete the friend of the world aspiration. Every time I do that aspiration, I never beat it. Nervous for that one. Master the baking skill and the snowboarding skill, or you can choose the skiing skill. Any of those are fine. You have to own a 4-star business. Whatever you sell at the business is it's up to you. You need to go on at least 3 vacations in your life. Complete the snow globe collection. Marry and have children with a spellcaster. And the next heir must be a spellcaster. So you have multiple children with them if you need to. Or maybe your first one is a spellcaster and you decide to have one. It's up to you for this generation. But I think this generation is going to start off living in the city, at least how I envision it. And they like to travel around the world, go snowboarding, and things of that nature. It's going to be really fun to play around with. Definitely cozy vibes this generation. And I'm definitely excited to dress this generation up in like a Father Winter theme. I can't wait for it. But next generation is Spellcaster. So Spellcaster is the last occult that you end up doing in this challenge. And I chose Spellcaster for the last one because, unpopular opinion, Spellcaster is my favorite occult. That being said, I've never played with Werewolf, so who am I to say? But I'm going to read the backstory for this one. It says, you always had an easy life. When you wanted something, you could just use magic. You have a hard time taking your responsibilities seriously. You love to host parties and make drinks. Your children are not always happy at the parties you throw, but you enjoy a good time and you want to party forever. So for this generation, I imagine a spellcaster, kind of like the spellcaster behind in this image, kind of like they use magic to get everything done and they're really irresponsible, but it's going to be a good time. They're here for a good time and a long time. But we're going to go over the generation rules. I don't have a mystical collectible for this generation just because I want to play around with the spellcaster occult more. Obviously I played it in the past, but I want to see like different things they have and different potions before I choose the mystical collectible. The goals are: your traits are outgoing, insider, and dance machine. You need to complete the party animal aspiration, master charisma and mixology skill, learn all practical spells, have children with 4 different humans, and the next heir must be a human. So yeah, keep trying for those babies. Have a club with at least 5 club perks, make and drink potion of immortality, and become a mixologist. So basically, your sim is going to live forever and just party. It's going to be really so much fun this generation. And I think it's a nice way to finish off the occults before moving on to the human generation, which would be the final generation of this challenge. So we're on to the final generation. As the background said, you have 2 humans in this challenge. The first one to start it off and the last one to finish it off. And this generation, I'm so excited for. I can't wait for this generation. It says, you grow up hating being a mystical sim. You just want to be rid of the curse that started it all. You spend your time studying artifacts, hoping to find the way to end the curse. Once you study an artifact, you write it down. You are such a workaholic, and your ultimate goal of ending the curse keeps you from love. Will you work through your pain through writing, or would you let it consume you? So this generation is so obsessed with breaking this curse. Can you imagine hearing constantly, especially because your mom or you can play with any gender. The mystical sim beforehand is a spellcaster, so they probably are really in tune with the curse and knowing what happened in past generations. Plus that sim has all the collectibles, all 9, and they're so irresponsible. I can see them like losing it, mishandling the mystical collectibles, and their child is like obsessed with them and keeping them safe, and it's just gonna be a grand old time. I can let you know for this generation, I plan on having the spellcaster parent stay with the human sim because the spellcaster parent can't keep their life together, and I think they would just get on their child's nerves and it would just be funny to have them around. But this generation, I'm going to go over to the rules so we can get a better understanding. All right, this generation, I know it has a lot of rules, but it's the last generation, so of course I had to make it really difficult for us. But I want to start off by saying that some of these things in this generation may change around just because I don't know if we'll be able to achieve it. But anyway, mystical collectible is an autobiography. I don't know if you can even write this in The Sims 4. I know you can write a biography, and if you can, at least name it after yourself and make it an autobiography. But the traits are bookworm and unflirty. You get to choose the third. This generation, like I said, is a really choose your own fate kind of generation because it's your story. You're ending off the 10 generations, and I want you to be able to end the curse how you want to end the curse. You need to write 9 nonfiction books and 1 autobiography or biography. The 9 nonfiction books must be dedicated to each previous generation, and the autobiography must be about your sim and cannot be written until an elder. Get creative with it. So for example, your book on your mermaid generation needs to center around your mermaid mystical heir, if that makes sense. And you can get creative with the titles and the little description about the book. Your career, you can also choose what you want to do. You can choose writer or the education career, the professor branch, so becoming a professor. And I did this one because I can see this sim going either way, either like writing as their career or becoming a professor and teaching students archaeology. So I can see it either way, so you choose. You need to master the writing and archaeology skill. Have a best friend that you begin to have romance with as an adult. Decide if you want to continue the relationship before elderhood. So for this one, I imagine you have like a best friend that you knew pretty much your whole life. And this best friend is like madly in love with you, but you're so into your studies that you don't even notice it. And then when you're an adult and your life settles down a bit is when you start to explore romance with them. But because you're unflirty, it scares you off a little bit. Plus you're still trying to break the curse. And then you need to decide if you want to continue the relationship before you become an elder. And you need to have the workaholic lifestyle. Travel to Silver Dorado 3 times. Like I imagine that you're traveling back there to break the curse, and you need to master the archaeology skill. So you kind of have to go back. And then the curse is broken when all 10 books are published and all generation rules are completed. You also need to adopt a child this generation. You do have the option of having biological children as well. You can if you want, but I imagine that by Gen 10, you're terrified that you're going to pass on this curse, that you kind of want to just adopt children to, like, you know, stop yourself from passing on the curse. And who's to say, maybe you fall in love with your best friend Sim and y'all decide to have babies because you decide that, you know, you're finally ready to take the risk. I don't know. It's up to you. This challenge, like I said, is based on, you know, storytelling. But that's all 10 generations. I just want to go over some quick reminders. So a reminder, you are free to change any rule that you want to change. Like, it's up to you to change the rules you want to change, especially based on the packs you have. Also remember that you can use the hashtag Mystical Legacy Challenge so I can see you play along with this challenge and let me know how it's going. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you want to catch me playing this challenge and see how I play through it. Let me know in the comments if there's anything that you know for sure cannot be done in The Sims. As I said, I made this challenge a few years ago, so it can always use a refresh. Also, like I said, it's a work in progress. So if I'm playing through and I notice things change and they need to be changed, I will change them. But if you're playing ahead of me and you already beat the generation when it was the rule, like when I had an old rule and I switched it, that's fine. And the last thing to remember is please have fun with this challenge. I made the challenge to help you tell stories in your game and for you to play around with the mystical side of The Sims 4, because The Sims has always been a franchise that's been centered around wackiness and kookiness and mystical Sims, and I wanted to give Simmers a chance to explore that side of The Sims, especially if they usually don't do so. This can give you like a great starting point to get introduced to occult playing or mystical Sim. Like I said, I will be playing this challenge on my channel, so stick around for it. And like I said, if you have any questions, or let me know your thoughts down below. I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.